The dead man we brought back started shivering, but it wasn't what we thought. They called it a breakthrough. I call it the day I cracked the world open and let something awful spill out. It started in a room that smelled of ozone and antiseptic, a clean, cold observation deck, separated by a pane of one-way glass from the thing on the steel table. The thing had a name, Abel Varga, and a time of death. 11:19 p.m. My protocol, Nightingale 7, was already flooding his veins, a shimmering cocktail I designed to stop the decay, to hold the brain's architecture in perfect stasis. I was explaining this, probably for the 10th time, to the board of observers. My voice was steady, a practiced lecture tone I used to paper over the frantic hammering in my own chest. A hand went up. Zora Haddad. "Of course." "Alistair," she said, her voice cutting through the sterile quiet. "Forgive me, but isn't it possible that introducing this agent pre-mortem, however slightly, could have unforeseen neurological consequences?" I felt my jaw tighten. "As I've stated, Zora, Nightingale is inert in living tissue. It activates only at the cessation of all bioelectrical signals. It's a preservative, nothing more. A key, waiting for the lock to turn." "A theoretical key," she countered, her dark eyes fixed on me. She wasn't buying the poetry. "Theory is the cradle of fact," I said, maybe a little too sharply. I nodded to Kenji, my tech, who sat bathed in the green glow of his console. "That's why we're here. To leave the cradle." We all looked through the glass. Abel Varga lay under the harsh lights, pale and still. My life's work, my marriage, my reputation, my entire goddamn future was lying on that slab with him. They could scoff. They would see. "Kenji," I said, my voice a low command, "initiate the cascade." Kenji's fingers flew across the board, flipping switches. A low hum filled our room. Inside the chamber, nothing. Silence. Just a dead man on a table. My stomach twisted. Failure felt like a physical weight pressing down on me. Then, a sound. It wasn't a twitch. It was a noise from inside Abel's chest. A low, resonant hum, like a tuning fork struck against bone. It vibrated through the glass. The observers leaned forward. Abel's head turned. Not like a man waking up, but like a bottle swiveling on a table. A smooth, unnatural pivot. His limbs followed, rising from the slab not with the strain of muscle, but with the fluid grace of something pulled by strings. He sat up. Then he stood, planting his bare feet on the cold floor. My breath came out in a ragged gasp. It worked. Holy shit, it worked. A murmur of shock and awe went through the observers. I heard a few of them start to clap. I grinned, a wide, stupid, triumphant grin, and turned to Zora. Not just a theory now, is it? She wasn't looking at me. She was staring, bone white, at the glass. Her mouth was a thin, tight line.
"What is he doing?"
she whispered. Abel Varga stood facing the observation window, facing us, and he was trembling, a violent full-body shudder. His teeth chattered, a sound like a dozen tiny hammers tapping on porcelain, a rhythmic, mechanical click, click, click that scraped at my nerves. "He's seeing his reflection," I said, dismissing it. "System shock. The brain is rebooting. It's to be expected." But even as I said it, a sliver of doubt wedged itself in my mind. His eyes, they seemed too focused.
"Is he looking at me?"
Zora asked, her voice barely audible. It did seem that way. His gaze was fixed right where she was sitting. But that was impossible. The glass was mirrored on his side. "Just admiring the man you brought back from the dead, Zora," I said, forcing a laugh. This calls for champagne. She didn't move. She just kept staring, transfixed by the chattering man on the other side of the glass. The next day, Zora's chair was empty. She didn't come in, Kenji told me, his face grim. Doesn't answer her phone. A cold knot formed in my gut. Coincidence. It had to be. We spent the morning running diagnostics, my mind a million miles away. Abel Vargas stood motionless in the corner of his room, a statue carved from flesh. He hadn't moved an inch since. The call came around noon. Zora had been found in her apartment. A massive, spontaneous cerebral hemorrhage. The coroner called it a 1 in a million anomaly. Healthy woman, no history, just gone. I felt the blood drain from my face. 1 in a million. I went back to the observation deck alone. I needed to see him. I stood before the window, the silence of the room amplifying the frantic beat of my heart. The thing that was Abel Vargas stood in the corner. As if he sensed me, he began to turn, that same fluid, unnatural pivot. He turned until he faced the glass, until his dead eyes were staring directly at where I stood. And then the chattering started again. But this time, I saw it. A silent, rattling, endless laugh. And I knew with a certainty that froze my soul what Zora had seen. It wasn't looking at its reflection yesterday. It had been looking right through the glass, at her, savoring the joke. Now, it was looking at me.